You see, our habits define us. It is the accumulated effect of our habits that determine our ultimate success or failure as men. Every major success in life is the product of years of building the right habits. Every major failure, particularly marital failure, the result of building the wrong habits. Jim Rohn, one of America's most sought after and most respected business advisors and motivational guru, said failure is not a single cataclysmic event. You don't fail overnight. Instead, failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. It's about our habits every day. He also said we must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs stones. You know, to be able to discipline how you look at other women if you're married, or if you're single, to discipline how you look at a girl. And applying the discipline also in your private life, that we don't dwell so much time in fantasizing sexual things or engaging ourselves in pornographic material. That demands discipline. You understand that? It takes a lot of discipline for you when you go into the internet to prevent yourself from going to pornographic sites. Because you can go there with just a touch of a button. It takes discipline to keep you from doing that. And if discipline is painful, why? Of course it's painful, right? Because it's denying yourself the pleasure of the thing you really want to do. But the pain of discipline is lighter than the pain of regret, that later on, when we are conditioned by these things to lead us into decisions that can affect a lifetime, like falling into adultery, the pain of regret will be more severe than the pain of discipline. Okay? The true measure of a man is not the success of his profession, but the success of his marriage. His true character is tested by the strength of his marital integrity. No other success in life can compensate for failure in the home, as David McKay said. A marriage vow is no match to passion where there is no strength of character. And there is no strength of character where there is no fear of God or love of God. That's why we're saying spirituality is the foundation. The more you seek God with all your heart, the more you build a strong relationship with God, the more you pray and seek God's grace each day to empower you to overcome the temptations we face as men every day, and to learn to consciously walk in the awareness of God's presence in your life every day. Enables you to develop the courage and the strength to overcome temptations. No man is stronger than the tenacity of his convictions. Tenacity means, enduring determination that no matter what happens, I will not sacrifice what I believe in. You cannot be stronger than the tenacity of your convictions and the depth of your spirituality. The deeper you walk with God, the stronger you become. Let me tell you a story. There was a story of a cargo plane that was carrying a lot of fruits and vegetables. At a certain level, one of the crew members discovered that there were rats in the cargo bay. And the rats were threatening the cargo of fruits and vegetables. And so one of them said, we have to kill the rats before they get to the cargo, or we'll be the one to pay for this cargo. But the pilot said, no, don't kill them, because by trying to kill them, you might damage a part of the plane, and we'll all be in trouble. And so they said, so what are we going to do? And so the pilot said, just sit back, put on your seat belts, and be ready for the oxygen mask to come down. We'll just bring the plane to a higher altitude, where there will be less oxygen, and that will kill the rats. And that's exactly what they did. And when they were at a very high altitude, they were all donning oxygen masks, the rats died. Sometimes fighting against those temptations in your life will all the more draw you to those temptations. But the other way is to build a stronger relationship with God, to soar higher in your spirituality, to learn to dwell in the awareness of God's presence in your life, to learn the fear of God. That is a better way to overcome the ruts in our life. There is no substitute to spirituality in strengthening our resolve against sin. Weak men like leaves are swayed by the opinion or the accolade of others. Madali po tayong madala ng sinasabi ng barkada or peer group. Or the accolade of others. Wow, good, good. But you're already sacrificing your conviction in order to gain the accolade or the applause of men, or the attractions of women or wealth. You see, weak men like leaves are swayed by the attractions of women and wealth. Let me tell you one secret about women. I've been a counselor for many years. I've counseled men and women. You know, women will always test a man. How far you will go. Okay? Your wife, as you have noticed, there are times she will test you. How you will react if she does something. Because women are always looking for strength in the man that they admire or they love. And they want to test your strength. Can you handle her? Can you handle her tantrums? Can you handle her nagging? Can you handle her being emotionally sensitive? What they're looking for is enough strength in the man to make them feel they can really lean on you because they see you can handle them well. Not by force of violence, but rather by understanding and patience and meeting their needs so that they don't have to tell you what they need. That is where we are being tested. And I tell you, women, if you're not careful, especially those who are bold and courageous to truly seduce you, they're gonna test you. And I tell you, women lose respect for men who are easily swayed by their attractions. They soon lose respect. Okay? But they enjoy the attention. But the respect of you has grown less because they see you are not strong enough. Do you understand this? That is why when we are easily swayed by attractions of women or the attractions of money and wealth, it demonstrates that we are yet weak men. Strong men stand because they are anchored on uncompromising convictions. Even if a woman comes to you and seduces you, say, I'm sorry, I love my wife. Goodbye. That takes a lot of conviction. And conviction is a habit where you make repeated choices to resist the temptation, and it becomes a habit in you. And when it becomes a habit, that becomes what you call conviction. You see, belief is something that you hold. Conviction is something that holds you because it has become habit in your life. Every time we give in to temptation, we become weaker and weaker and weaker as men. It is our challenge to say no. And if you have to run, run. Because in the story of Joseph in the Bible, real men know when to run. Right? They don't run away from challenges and trouble, but they know how to run away from a woman. Those are real men. Okay. Let me share with you how David, the great king, fell. And we will see some guidelines here on how we can keep ourselves also from falling. How many of you know the story of King David in the Bible? Okay. What was his greatest fall? Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah. Don't forget the murder, because God is faulting David in the story of the kings primarily for his murder of Uriah. Okay? So, how did David fall? First of all, David built the wrong habits. You see, God clearly commanded, especially with women, in Deuteronomy 17:17, He commanded that the king must not take many wives, one wife only. But because it was the custom of kings, in other nations, to take many wives, they call that the harem. And if a king has more women, the more popular he gets. The macho king. Okay? And David instead of fully obeying God, allowed himself to be influenced by the practices of kings in his time. By the time he fell for Bathsheba, he had already, according to the story, 7 wives. And he also took many concubines. Concubines are simply part of the harem. These are what we call today mga kabit. But these are all virgins, singles, okay? Concubines, above his 7 wives, he took more concubines by the time he fell for Bathsheba. In other words, David was already compromising, in his sexual integrity before he fell for Bathsheba. He was preparing himself for his ultimate failure. How we relate with women, single women, or married women as men, the kind of habits we build with women will affect us when we come to the time of real temptation. If we have not built enough safeguards in our life, when the moment of the supreme temptation comes to us, we will easily give in. Because we already have weakened ourselves because of building wrong habits along the way. I'll give you an example. When we get used to pornography, a time will come and you're no longer satisfied with what you see. You want the real thing. You understand that? Because we have compromised with pornography, it will embolden you at the moment of weakness to seek the real thing. Because the habit has already conditioned and prepared you. Another thing, when you look at pornography, we are conditioning ourselves to enjoy sex with a woman that is not your wife. So it develops in us a gradual conditioning to enjoy sex only with another woman that's not your wife. A time will come when you're already bored with your wife because you're already seeking other pleasures outside of your marriage because you've been conditioned by pornography. These are habits that prepare us for our ultimate fall. And David prepared himself. Not only that, he not only developed habits of compromise with women, but he also developed habits of compromise with power. David had an army with him, but because there was a certain man that whose flocks he cared for, and later on he asked for food, and the man refused to give him food. That was Nabal. Okay, he was so angry that he wanted to kill Nabal and every man in his town. He was vindictive. He had the power to do that. But the wife of Abigail, upon learning what happened, immediately brought food to David and asked forgiveness, and told David, please do not destroy your testimony by taking into your hands vengeance and violence. You have been doing right with God all this time, David, but please don't tarnish your reputation by taking vengeance against my husband. Surely the Lord will vindicate you. And because of that, David was so impressed that he said, thank you for stopping me. He was already about to use power to achieve his own personal vindictive ends. You don't use power that way. And so later on, we find in 2 Samuel, David did allow the seduction of success to lure him to abuse of power. If you look at 2 Samuel 11, that describes the fall of David with Bathsheba, and you read chapter 8 up to chapter 10, you will discover that those chapters record victories upon victories upon victories against David's enemies. In other words, by the time you get to chapter 11, David was already, a great conqueror. He has defeated many of the enemies. He was actually enjoying the height of the success of his career. And I often say to men, the most dangerous moment in the life of a man is not the moment of failure, but it's the moment of success. When we don't know how to handle success, success can corrupt us. If we do not make ourselves accountable to others at the height of success, like David, he never even consulted with Nathan, the prophet, when he decided not to go into battle because that was his duty as a king. He excused himself from his duty of leading the army into battle, never even consulting Nathan. He was without accountability at that time. He was just wanted to enjoy himself. And it was at the moment when success seduced him into making him feel he has power. That's when he fell. Let me share this with you. Womanizing is not a matter just of lust. Womanizing is about power. The power you feel over a woman, and we abuse that. We take advantage, we exploit a woman's weaknesses because we have that sense of power. It is at those moments when you are enjoying the heights of power and success that we are most vulnerable to the temptations of women. Let me repeat that. It is in those moments at the heights of the enjoyment of success or the experience of power that we become most vulnerable to the temptations of women. How many have fallen into adultery or immorality at the height of their success of their ministry or in their political career or even in their business career? That sense of power makes us think that we can do anything we want. And that sense of power over a woman is now being abused and exploited for our personal pleasures. That's why how we handle power and success is very important. We should never forget to give the glory to God because, even though it took a lot of your energy and effort to achieve that success, God has blessed you with the favor, the strength, the ability, the network in order to help you succeed. In Psalm 127, verse 1, it said, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain." In the end, success is the gift of God. Success, when you are successful, is because God gave you the favor to succeed. You find that also in Deuteronomy chapter 8, 17 to 18. "You may say to yourself, by the strength and power of my hand, I've earned this wealth for me. But you shall remember it is the Lord your God who gives you the ability to produce wealth." You must never forget to thank God and to keep our place of humility before God at the moments of success in our life. David was not careful. That's why I'm exhorting you. There are pastors here tonight. Do not allow the success of your ministries to keep you from humbling yourself before God. Never forget to say, "God, I give you all the glory. I am just a servant." Lagi ko mo sinasabi sa aking sarili, utusan lang ako ng Diyos. In Tagalog, I'm just the Lord's errand boy. Pwede ba natin sabihin nyo na Tagalog, utusan lang ako ng Lord? I'm just the Lord's errand boy. Whatever success we have, we always say, I'm just the Lord's errand boy. We don't receive the glory because that is not ours to glory about. You see, his experience of power lured him into that seduction by a woman and over a married woman. The biggest mistake of David was that this was a married woman. And you know what happened? After he went into Bathsheba, later on, Bathsheba sent a message, she was pregnant. Okay? Let me share with you the story so you can see how it happened. Late one afternoon, after his midday rest, David got out of the bed and was walking on the roof of the palace. As he looked over the city, he noticed a woman of unusual beauty. Can you say to the person beside you, men are by nature attracted to beauty, especially beautiful women. Okay. We are appreciative of beauty, right? But when we are focused on the beauty of somebody that's not your wife, that's a very dangerous matter. That's a very dangerous matter. Okay? David, being a man, was attracted. I think we will be hypocrites to say, I'm not attracted to any woman of beauty. We are. Okay? Are you honest and say, I do get attracted? Right? Right. Okay? David was. And so when he looked down the roof of the palace, he saw this woman of unusual beauty. In the original language, very beautiful. Okay? Taking a bath. You know why? Because he was up in the palace, and down there, usually the bath places are in the center of the courtyard that has no roof. So anybody at a high place can see anybody taking a bath because those baths have no roofs, especially in a wealthy house with a courtyard. Okay? And so what did he do? He looked at the woman, and that's the problem, the eyes. He started to look at the girl with lust. That's the problem. Okay? Sometimes we admit that you cannot avoid the first look, right? That's why we avoid the second look, right? The problem is that when the first look doesn't go away, that's the problem. And when we are used to staring or gazing at a beautiful woman, especially with a sexy body, and you don't end that as fast as you can, if you do not divert your attention immediately, that's already the beginning of falling into sin. It's how you manage your eyes. Okay? David took a long look that never left the body of the girl. And what follows was action. What does he do? He sent someone to find out who she was. When you begin to start to get to know the woman, that's already a dangerous matter. It's one thing to be attracted. It's another thing to get to know the woman more. You understand that? Okay? And then what happened? He gets the woman, and what happens next? He begins to send messengers to get her. And because he is the king, the woman cannot refuse. That's an abuse of power. If you're a manager and you have a secretary that's sexy, and you have power over her salary, you can easily abuse that power by taking advantage of your control of her because you hold her salary. That's why any position of power is dangerous for us men when we are not careful not to abuse that power. Our nature, our fallen nature makes us abuse whatever power we receive. Is that true or not?